My wife found out about my spontaneity prompts. So about 3 to 4 years ago my wife and I had a huge, near relationship ending, fight. It was mostly about how she feels I don't care about her. I get busy during the day and I forget to text her for hours at a time. And when I do it's the normal how's your day going stuff. So to fix this I made a list of 31 prompts or activities in my notes ranging from a simple I love you and can't wait to see you to getting flowers or planning a picnic at the park to surprise her with. I set a reminder in my phone to go off every 2 days and I will use the prompt that matches the day of the month so it feels random and not like I'm repeating the same stuff. If I think of something new I'll add it to the sublist and swap them around every few months. This has worked out pretty well. It's not that I don't mean these things, but I just need a reminder to pull me out of work mode for a few minutes to check in on her without having to resort to the same boring and generic texts. Fast forward to this weekend, I was doing some car maintenance, and I also have important information about the cars and a maintenance log in my notes as well. And while I was under the car I asked my wife to look at the notes and check the torque spec for a drain bolt. Naturally, she sees a note called spontaneity prompts and is curious so she opens that and sees a laundry list of romanticisms. She puts it together probably recognizing some of the things I've said to her that I've been using this to talk to her during the day. She asks about it and I say I reference it from time to time when I want to do something nice or random to surprise her or when I feel like saying something non-generic over text. She says I shouldn't need a list of things to talk to her about and suspects I just pulled a list of ideas off the internet, even though I made this list on my own.
My parents aren't intelligent and it annoys me. I grew up in a small town with very religious parents. I left, got my degree, started a good career, traveled, learned to cook, met lots of different types of people. In that time frame, I've changed a lot politically and otherwise. However, my parents who have never left a 30-mile radius or met a person different than themselves are still living the same way they always have. I've always heard that you become a know-it-all disrespectful person who hates your parents in your teens and that when you get older and gain life experience, you come back around and respect your parents and come to appreciate that they are flawed but wise. That is not how things have panned out for me. When I was younger, I thought my parents were the wisest, most moral people on earth, and the older I get and the more I learn, the less I respect them. I'm visiting my parents right now just the past 2 days alone. They've done so many things that are absolutely baffling and I'm both dumbfounded by their stupidity and embarrassed to be associated with them. A few highlights. 1. Ron DeSantis is such an intelligent guy, quote from Dad. 2. My mom makes fun of me when I eat vegetables and thinks that I'm pretentious for eating frou-frou food as she calls it. 3. My mom got mad because I told her to stop giving my 1-year-old Diet Coke to drink. 4. I watched my parents grill burgers today with the paper still on the bottom of the patties, and they got mad at me for pointing out that they needed to take it off. 5. My mom keeps telling my 1-year-old no crying allowed. We don't cry. Crying is for drama queens. When I confronted her and told her to please stop because crying is both a coping mechanism and a form of communication for a baby, she didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. I'm exhausted. I don't know anyone else in my orbit whose parents act like this absent a mental illness. Does anyone else get so beyond annoyed at their parents' stupidity and immaturity? Edit to add some clarifications because some of you are making some wild assumptions and projecting your own experiences onto my post. 1. My parents are not poor. They have money and resources to learn and grow but choose not to, mostly I think, due to religious, evangelical, indoctrination. 2. I made it seem like my parents haven't traveled. They have. They've lived in the same 30-mile radius their whole lives, but they visited many different US cities, Israel, Ecuador, Germanic Europe, Canada, Belize, etc. It's just that when they go to those places, they don't actually meet or talk to other people. They stay with their group and view the people that live in those places as animals in a zoo exhibit. They have a very us versus them mentality, again due to religious indoctrination. 3. I've spent the better part of the decade hiding most parts of myself in order to keep the peace. I do not voice my opinions. I do not make comments on their choices no matter how I feel inside. Just my existence pisses them off. Ordering Brussels sprouts at a restaurant earns an eye roll. Making potato salad with celery gets a scoff and I'm not eating that nasty mess. It's gotten worse after having a kid because they criticize my parenting choices openly. Why do you dress her like a boy? Why do you pick her up when she cries? Letting them mostly do whatever in the short periods of time they have my child, but when I lightly push back to soda, they have a crazy, outsized reaction and call me pretentious. I understand I could go no contact, but they are the only family I've got. I do love them and appreciate what they've done for me. I want a good relationship with them. I'm just learning that a good relationship is probably out of the question. It hurts to not feel accepted for who I am and to feel like my parents don't respect me as an adult. Walking on the eggshells has taken a toll. That's why I came here to anonymously vent, with no filter, about them. I would never say what I said above out loud to actual people in my life. I expressed it here to get it out so that I can go back in my parents' house and be as non-offensive as possible. To those who expressed solidarity, thank you. It helps to know I'm not alone.
I recently found out that my older sister is actually my biological mother. My older sister, let's call her Rose, and I have a great relationship since I was a baby. We were raised with an amazing adoptive family and she has always taken care of me. I grew up in a very warm and loving environment, but from what I was told I was lucky. I was told the story of how me and my sister had two junkie parents who never took care of us. They never bothered feeding us and used to left us at a junkie friend's house for days to go out partying. When my mom was pregnant with me she smoked and got drunk. Luckily I turned out pretty fine, pretty often, and when I was born my sister was the only one who took care of me. When I was 2 months old they left us both in a mall and left. We got help from an old couple who also turned into our adoptive family. And we contacted the police but my parents weren't at the house, which looked like a homeless cave. We never saw them again, and after several months in foster care the couple that helped us, throughout the whole way by the way, agreed to adopt us. Today I'm 19 and Rose is 34. I still live with my adoptive family and she lives about 20 minutes away, so I come and visit her at least 3 to 4 times a week. So a couple of months ago my friend offered me to take a DNA test to find some information about my heritage, since my sister wouldn't speak of them much. After the results came and I found out some pretty interesting things like being 50% Ashkenazi Jew. I found out later that I had an aunt, 33 female, in the system. I immediately reached out to her, let's call her Janet, and we agreed to meet in person, all that without telling Rose a thing. When we met up I could see we have some similar characteristics like same hair color and same eyes. We tried to figure things out, so I asked her if she has a brother or sister, and she told me that when she was 13 her 14-year-old sister got pregnant while being drunk with her junkie boyfriend, and a month after giving birth she ran away with the baby after some pretty intensive fights with her parents. They never found her and stopped looking after 1.5 years. I connected the dots, asked to see a picture of her, so we went to her parents' house. Mom wasn't home and father died 3 years ago. When I saw the picture, I knew, this was Rose, 100%. Rose is my mom. We were never abandoned. We didn't have junkie parents and she fabricated the entire thing to me and our adoptive family. I immediately gave Janet a hug and told her that it's too much for me right now and asked her to keep it a secret for now. I went to my best friend's house, told him everything, and for a week now I'm sleeping over at his place. I told my parents and my sister I'm at his house because he bought a new game that we both wanted for long and avoided talking to Rose much. I can't look her in the eyes right now, let alone tell her I know the truth. What the heck am I supposed to do? How should I handle this? Should I tell her I know? Update: I recently found out that my older sister is actually my biological mother. Okay, so I first of all want to thank everyone for your honest replies. It really helped me to get my feelings straight and get ready to confront her. So after a week of avoiding I came to her house with a picnic basket by surprise, so I'll have a chance to speak with her. She was happy to see me and I told her to sit down because we need to talk. I started things with saying that I know that she has a secret that she's been hiding from me for years. Her face turned red and she started crying like heck. She knew what I was talking about. I told her the story about the DNA test, about Janet, and basically what I told you guys in the last post. Well, after she calmed down a bit she told me the truth. She told me how she got drunk at a party and got with one of the jerks who does nothing but za every day. He didn't really care about a future kid and was like, yeah, whatever. Apparently she found out that 10 years ago he was unalived in prison. She told me how her mother used to convince her father to talk me out of the idea of keeping the baby. They would constantly fight with her. When the baby was born they told her on the spot that she brought shame upon the family and they will not help raising the baby in any way, meaning she will have to work meanwhile to have money for her baby and sometimes for herself. After a couple of months of loaning from her friends and juggling between working and taking care of me, she had a huge fight with her parents and told them that if they are not helping financially and barely in any sort of way, she and me are better off without them. As they sent her to her room she escaped in the middle of the night, hitchhiked to a neighboring country, and by morning she was there already. She tried to take care of me for a few days. She found an old abandoned house that used to have homeless people coming around every now and then, and she took me to the mall when I started crying. She started crying too. The couple that adopted us immediately came to our aid and asked if we lost our mother. Rose jumped on the opportunity and came up with a story and an alias. Police figured out we are not in the system for multiple reasons. We were raised in foster care for 1.5 years until the couple that helped us decided to make the effort and adopt us so we won't be separated. It took them a few months and a couple of lawyers, but they managed to adopt us both. Rose knew all along that her parents are looking for her. They came to their senses after a day or so. She reached out to them and told them in a letter that she is fine and is taking care of herself and me. She is not homeless and found a nice couple to help her with the baby. She made it clear for them that she is never coming back and they should stop looking. And a month after that they stopped. A few years later her father went on a quest to find her. She was after 18. Secretly, after so much time searching he found her and apologized, and after a while she forgave him and kept secretly in touch with him. He met me a few times and I knew him as one of Rose's old friends from the park. He helped us a few times and apparently they would meet up once every 2 months secretly. Ironically, I'm glad I got to know him before he passed, even if I didn't know who he really is. By the way, the adoptive family never found out about the whole thing. So after hearing this I told her we missed a lot by not knowing she is my mother, and I told her I understand she did the right thing. I pulled out an "It's a Boy" sign from the picnic basket and some snacks for a late baby shower, and we hugged for an hour or so, had a lot of fun, watched a movie, and I headed off to my parents' adoptive house to have dinner with them. I'm glad she is my mother. I feel for the first time in years, complete. I don't care she lied because she did it for the greater good, and I honestly can't imagine my life right now if she didn't. Thanks Reddit for helping me getting my feelings straight and helping me out mentally to cope with everything that happened.
My husband raised his voice at me over manicuring our son's nails. My son showed me that he broke a nail and I said I'd fix it. Typically I just trim and file his nails, but he had a bad day at school and I wanted to give him some extra attention. It was just a manicure and clear polish. It wasn't even glossy. It was matte, because I know my son wouldn't like shiny nails. It calmed him down and we had a nice time together. My husband got home from work as we were finishing. He loudly asked what I was doing and told our son to show him his hand. My heart jumped being spoken to like that out nowhere. I said I just fixed his nails and my husband said, "That's fine. Just remember he's not a mini you, he's a boy, my son." I didn't say anything back because I don't like to argue. My son mumbled to me, "Why is he so mean?" I told him that he was tired from work. As I was putting some lotion on his hand he asked, "Is he mad at us?" I told him everything was okay and not to feel bad. My husband must have picked up on our son's nerves because later he said to our son, "You know I'm not being mean to you or your mother, right? I'm fine with her pampering you. I'm just reminding her to do it appropriately." He didn't even really say I was doing anything wrong, but it still made me feel like I was. I do honestly think he was tired. I hate seeing our son have anxiety about his dad. It's usually not like that.
Me and my wife know we are cheating on each other. I 35 male have been married to my wife 35 female for 8 years. Tougher for 9. Before I continue I want to say now I absolutely adore my wife Jane. She has been my best friend since we were toddlers, family friend, and we've been through thick and thin and I would be anything to ensure she's happy and safe, which is why for the past 6 months I've bashed myself for cheating on her with Miles, 33 male. Miles is a work friend who had recently shown interest in me. He never knew I was married until I told him. About a month ago, he was pissed off as I expected and told me to tell Jane the truth or he would. I, obviously not wanting Jane to find out she's being cheated on by not only the person I was having an affair with but a man nonetheless. So, after about a week since the conversation I told her, I sat her down and admitted to my sexuality, how I loved her so much but wasn't attracted to her at all, and I cried about how I felt so guilty about keeping this from her and leading her on. She stayed quiet until the end of my little confession, and then she laughed. Jane started to cry and tell me how she was also cheating on me, with a woman. She apparently came out to her family at 16 and they threatened to kick her out and said she hadn't met the right guy yet. So Jane saw me as an opportunity to continue to have a roof over her head and stay relatively close to her family when I asked her out. I was shocked but also thrilled because someone could meet her needs better than I ever could and also because it in a way lifted the guilt off my shoulders. We decided to pop open a bottle of wine and chat about our secret spouses. I told her about Miles and she told me about this lovely woman named Rebecca who'd she'd been seeing for a little over a year. As the night continued and we got more drunk we began to talk about our sex life and poked fun at each other for our lack of knowledge on how to pleasure of each other, haha. We were always very awkward. I felt like a teenage girl talking about boys and it was one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life. It's obviously been a while since that talk and we've set up a double date for tonight. I've talked to Miles about and he's fine with it. And so is Rebecca. If my family or Jane's find out we've decided to just say we were hanging out with friends, it isn't a lie. I'd love to get to know Rebecca. I can't wait to meet her. I hope she treats Jane like the queen she is and spoils her a bunch. Me and Jane aren't planning on getting divorced. Too much stress when we're both happy to stay with one another. And we've talked about it with Miles and Rebecca and it hasn't caused any issues as of right now. Thank you for reading through all of this. This exciting for both me and Jane. Wish me luck.